was Arch Bello Magana, who was also doubling as the regional delegate for information and culture. So he came out and they asked him, where is the person who is speaking English here? I was in the station preparing my English programs in the evening, so they asked me to come out, that the head of state is out. I was surprised that the head of state was there. I came out.
Did you greet him?
Of course. Oh, Ahijo was a very calm, subtle person. He was really a father, because throughout the period of my service in the north, I saw that the Muslims, they have a heart. They have a friendly heart. And again, we who spoke English, they considered us with a lot of confidence. They knew that we spoke English and that we were useful Cameroonians. And that is how he went back and told the chief of station that the program that you have been sending tapes to Yaoundé should stop, and the program should be broadcast live from Garoua. What was the program that was going on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? It was the program magazine in Hausa language. So they had to shift this program to the evening, and we had to take over our real spot in Luncheon Day like in other regions, and that is how Luncheon Day settled in the north.
Did you receive any benefit from President Ahijo's special benefits, like someone who carried English to his meeting?
Well, you see, just like President Biya was saying, after the coup d'etat, people who defended him during the coup d'etat of April 6, they were expecting some compensation, but he told them that they were doing their work. So, and that is the same spirit that President Ahijo handled us during his period. But what I should say was that the administration at that time was strict and correct. When you did your mission was paid. You didn't wait for so long, and sometimes it was even forgotten that you had done mission.
Now let us go back to the coup d'etat. What was your particular focus?
My focus in writing on the coup d'etat was on why should we be in conflict? How is this conflict going to help us? Those who did it, who were those who were really involved? How did it affect those who were in positions of leadership? And how are we going to go out of such a situation? You know, during the April 6 coup d'etat, President Paul Biya, through the channels underground in the presidency, was seeing everything that was happening in Yaoundé and wanted to give up. He said, but they are killing people for what? Let him go out and the thing should end. It is his bodyguard, Ivo, who said, no, you cannot go out. If you go out, then what is going to become of us? That is how he was taken to the bunker where he remained, and he started communicating with his collaborators who were ministers and informing them about the situation in the city of Yaoundé. And we had to say this. We had to report this. So you will find that Paul Biya, being a Christian, he felt bad that people who had nothing to do with politics were being killed. And it was difficult to know exactly who was behind the coup. It's later on, when I was carrying out my investigation for my book, that I knew that the rebellion was from the north, and that the north was revendicating the fact that they had told Ahijo not to hand over power to any person in the south. And Ahijo did this willfully, knowing that Paul Biya was his closest collaborator, quiet, non-violent. He did not advocate, And let me tell you that before Bia became a militant of CNU, he was a UPC. So that is one person born in a Christian home, who has grown up with Christian moral habits. And he is one of the Cameroonians that has never suffered. That is why I tell you, he has never suffered. We have carried cassava for our mothers to sell and pay our school fees, but he has never suffered. But he knows that it is his own benefit that God gave him. And he tries by all possible means to make Cameroonians comfortable. So I tried in the book to compare the way Ahidjo's policies were done and the way Paul Biya's policies were arranged. In Ahidjo's time, he never announced a development project without realizing that project 50%. If he told you that there was going to be a bridge like the Buri Bridge, if that bridge comes into his speech, it means that project has been done 50%, and he is telling you that this project will be done and it will be completed at this time. So at that time, it will be period for inauguration. Different from Ahidjo is Paul Biya. Paul Biya made several promises, and very few of them were kept. I will take the first promise that Paul Biya made when he took over power. He said in Bamenda that there will be no chasing of fires. There will be no chasing of fires in Yaoundé. Fires will be treated on the spot and everything done. Till today, Cameroonian civil servants are still chasing fires. I'm just taking these simple examples for us to see. It has taken him time to understand the difference between his master, President Ahidjo, and himself. Paul Biya is good today because he, from criticism that has been made on his system of management, he has moderated, he has arranged. They told him that his brothers were stealing. He asked whether there were proofs. When he stayed quiet, they thought he did not know what he was doing. Then he started catching his brothers and putting in jail, and people are now complaining. What do they want? So those are some of the things that I wanted that Cameroonians should be aware and know that for change to come, we need to go in a democratic manner. And a democratic process comes slowly. It's not something that comes like somebody switching on and switching off light in his room.
Let me just come very fast before I can come in there. The casualties of the April 6 coup d'etat, how were they in terms of human lives, in terms of political loss, in terms of cultural losses, people losing their jobs, etc., those going to prison, maybe innocent souls, a breakdown of the system?
Yes, there was a breakdown of the system, and many Muslims who were in top-level positions were arrested and sent to jail. But a few years later, after investigations were carried out, they realized that they were not involved in the arrangement, and they were liberated. And
examples?
Well, the Director General of Sutuk at the time, he became a minister now, later on. And yes, yeah. So, and there were so many soldiers who died because they had never been at the war front. Some of the guns they were using them wrongly, and the guns were backfiring on them instead of firing on their opponents. And that is how many people lost their lives. And those who were arrested for their involvement, because they had their uniforms, and these uniforms did not have grades because they were young men. Most of those were they were massacred, they were killed. And They were all buried in mass graves in Barmayo. That is why Barmayo has become a very important city today. It's history, and it's difficult to say who was amongst the more than 2,000 persons who lost life during that period. But there was a lot of damage that happened. And there is something I would want to say here too, which happened after the April 6th. You know, during the period of the April 6th, Radio Cameroon was broadcasting on shortwave. Broadcasting on shortwave meant what was said on Radio Cameroon was heard all over the world. And the technician who was in the modulation center in Radio Cameroon is the one who saved this country, because he removed the cable which connected radio stations in the provinces, so that the speech of the leader of the putsch did not reach the regions, because if that speech reached the regions, the instructions that he gave in his speech would have been acted upon, and it would have been difficult to return to normal situation. So this guy, looking at the way the soldiers who penetrated the radio station aggressed them, they felt that these people were not people of goodwill. So they removed that cable that linked up with the provincial radio stations, and broadcast remained in the building. So they were listening to their voice in the building, and they thought that this speech was amplified. And that is one of the reasons which made a former Director General of CRTV to put off shortwave transmitters. Cameroon does not broadcast on shortwave transmitters. I think the only shortwave transmitter that is functioning in the country today should be the transmitter in Garwa. I don't know the situation in Betwa, because Betwa also was on shortwave. So the reason Professor Mendoza did this was he saw the benefit of what this guy did and said, if this message was received outside, we should not have managed it. Yes, yes. So those are certain things that we need to say to Cameroonians, and they should know why things have changed. But things have changed positively too, because they brought in FM radio, and every community is having its own FM radio and discussing its own issues. Is that not part of development? Is that not part of the democracy that we have been looking for?
Okay. But Mr. James, finally, where are your books? We don't find them again in the bookstands. Remember April 6th?
Yes, remember April 6th was published. I did only 2,500 copies. And I had the headache of getting the book circulated, because I wanted to circulate it hand to hand and through persons that I knew, and those that I knew and thought they were my relatives and my close friends, they refused to handle the book. They said this book can send somebody to jail. So what happened was that I handed these books to a press book, Presbyterian bookshop, and Presbyterian bookshop distributed these books in all the bookshops, press books shops in the country.
Well, thanks very much, James Achanyi Fontem, for that very smart recollection of the fact concerning April 6. Now we turn to something different now, this time to talk about health, where some 40 Cameroonians underwent surgery in Douala. That was the handiwork of a group of medical doctors, about 65 of them, and they call themselves Hippocratic Pilgrims. Details with Morindi.
J'ai constaté ça quand ça a commencé à me faire très très mal. C'est pour ça que je suis là aujourd'hui.
His pains are now over, though they remain a sad memory. This man has been suffering from hernia for some time now and could not afford for treatment. Today he has undergone surgery from a group of doctors in the littoral, better known in the French acronym Pèlerin d'Hippocrate. More than 40 similar cases were taken care of free of charge. I was operated 30 minutes ago. I thank God for the doctors who brought up such an initiative to help people who can't afford, who cannot afford for such a treatment.
Pour ce qui concerne l'activité opératoire,
our balance sheet is positive. We carried out major and minor operations. We had so many operation cases.
Interventions avec environ 16 procédures.
For 3 days, Cameroonians were offered free medical care at Collège Afrique Sake in Douala. More than 2,000 persons were diagnosed of hypertension, diabetes, HIV and AIDS, kidney problems and others. Cameroonians who came for treatment appreciated the initiative but decried Cameroon's healthcare system, which they say is expensive. Most say specialists are scarce and those who provide their services are just costly. We are out to provide health care to those who cannot afford for proper treatment. It is free of charge. Cameroonians have expressed the need for government to support such initiatives.
The Arts and Culture Week opened in Yaoundé. We have reports on these, plus other arts and cultural news with Steve Funkam. Let's have these details and we'll come back.
The third edition of the Limbe Festival of Arts and Culture, dubbed Festac, is here. This annual cultural jamboree brings together cultural backgrounds from across the country and beyond. The opening ceremony, chaired by the Governor of the Southwest Region, Mr. Bernard Okalia Bilai, saw the participation of both young and old at the event, coming to portray and uphold the culture of their different cultural backgrounds. As part of activities marking this launching ceremony, there was a carnival around the town of Limbeled, led by the youths who were called upon to preserve their cultural heritage. Equally, at the Limbe community, there was a colorful cultural march past of participants from the 10 regions of Cameroon, as well as international delegations from Benin, Ghana and Nigeria. For 7 days, participants at the festival will thrill the population with the different aspects of their cultural backgrounds.
The maiden edition of the Batanga Mungo Bakweri Cultural Festival Bamubak came to an end last weekend in Boya. This 2-day event brought together sons and daughters from Kribi, Mungo and Boya. They converged on Boya to commemorate 100 years of brotherliness. Their history dates back as 1915s, when some 4,000 Batangas traveled back to their hometown after seeking refuge in Boya and Mungo following the outbreak of the World War I. Also present at the event were the Lamido of Marua, the president of the Ngondo and the paramount chief of the Ngolo Batanga people of Ndian. Participants at the festival were treated by the various traditional dances from Kribi and Boya. Highlights at the festival were the Kenyu race at Miselele, a cultural evening at Wokaka, which was accompanied by a dinner and the laying out of the foundation stone for the construction of a monument at Moli. The president of the Boya Chiefs Conference explained some of the innovations they intend to implement next year. I am very happy to be here today. I wish it would be better next year. Other chiefs were elated to see such a historic event take place on their soil. We had a powerful delegation from Kribi, a powerful mobilization from the southwest, and the other Sawa elite. It is a great monument of brotherhood.